Let's see here. Marv says, Joe, did you hear a difference going from an AVR and preamp mode to a processor? I'm looking to purchase a Mint Marantz AV7704 for $500. I don't think I can hear a difference. I think there's a difference to be.
I can actually do that here with the 7706 and the Denon 6700H in preamp mode.
Okay, I don't touch
the button from the main listening position. I can do that.
I don't think there's a huge difference as far as those things. I think going from internal amplification, trying to power all of your speakers, to external amplification, that's a difference.
Yeah,
definitely. If you're using some power hungry speakers and if you're running them down,
you did think that you had less of a noise floor when it's all XLR.
So that's in my particular situation, right? In my case, the garage has dirty power and the noise was coming in through RCA. Noticeable. Like, with everything off, you could put your ear to the thing and you could hear it. You could hear it in my video, right? I don't know if that would have been resolved if I grounded, the AVR to the amps, connected them up, and I'd have to manually do that because there's no ground wire on some of the things. But that was the most noticeable thing, is using XLR. I had less noise, which that makes it sound better. Your system sounds better because think about the amount of noise multiplied by all of your speakers, right?
Yeah.
So that extra noise, if you multiply that out, with speakers all around you, you'll sense it. Not that you're gonna hear it, but it's like when there's a fan going on in your room, you're not like, oh, I hear the fan. But when you turn it off, you notice that the fan's off. There is a difference. It's quieter. That's the difference that I noticed. But I don't think there's a huge difference going from an AVR that has preamp mode to one that's a dedicated one. I'm sure that they'll tell you, manufacturer will tell you otherwise, because they can charge you more for a product with less stuff in it, which is good for them.
Yeah.
Oh, how about you guys? Do you feel the same way, or do you have a different opinion on it?
I feel like when I went from my Marantz SR7015 in preamp mode to the IOTA AVX17 preamp, again, that's going from RCA to XLR. It seemed like I had more cinematic bass response. Like it seemed like it was getting up there with what I experience only in an actual movie theater.
Would you say that the bass was just more dynamic? You had more dynamics, maybe?
I don't know, man. It just seemed like.
What do you mean?
Like I could just feel it in my chest more, and it like rumbled from the ground more. So I don't know if that's just because I don't know. And IOTA is one of the cheaper preamps out there, and they've got their own room correction software. So it wasn't.
It's like the tone winner that I have.
Exactly.
So but that's a huge jump, because that's not just preamp mode to a processor. That's from a Marantz completely to a different platform altogether.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, it's not another Marantz preamp, or it's not, a Storm audio preamp or Trinout preamp. I would say the AVX17 is one of your budget preamps, and it still seemed to hit harder, or just seem more cinematic than the Marantz.
But when you had the Marantz, did you have Odyssey calibration on?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so the tone or the AVX, you probably did you run their calibration, or did you just not run any?
Yeah, I ran theirs.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be the hugest difference, right? The calibration. I've been testing the calibration for the past few days. Yeah, the tone winner calibration is not the best. That's why I'm working on it. But
right,
that could be a bigger noticeable difference. If you had them both in with no calibration whatsoever, I think that they might sound more similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Chana, what's your experience? You've tested a lot of stuff, man.
I've what?
You've tested a lot of these AVRs and processors.
I mean, I've only had the Marantz processors really until I got this Accurus one.
Well, I'm just saying, going from a Denon Marantz AVR with the preamp mode, right? So you're using the preamp to a dedicated processor. Do you hear like, oh my goodness, this is not?
It's not noticeable in that aspect. And then at the same time, I was talking to Klaus and I was telling him about this idea of A being 16 channel processors, and he said that there was some tests that said that our hearing, like we really have a 3.5 second window to make a distinction to where we can actually hear a difference in something. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't imagine that there would be a huge difference. I wouldn't imagine. But have I actually experienced? Because, you know, you can't. I mean, now I have this thing, you know, I just need to get a cable and then I can do it from right here. Mm. And then I can find out, right? I can find out. But, you know, it's going to be harder to hear through. I believe it'll probably be harder to hear through a YouTube video.
Okay.
You know, so
what do I have?
Because I think it's that minute. I think it's that small. Like it's probably so small that there's no way we can hear it through a YouTube video.
I've had numerous Denon products, right? 4500H, 4700H, 6700H. I have the HTP1 processor, right? Mm-hmm. I have that tone winner. I have the NAD T778, which is a AVR, but also has preamp out. Going from all of those, the biggest difference is the calibration. Right? Yeah. If I turn them all off, no calibration, and I just did a swap from one to the other, and another one is my computer system here. I kind of you've seen it, Chana. I have my own kind of like a setup where the computer is doing all the DSP.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And so at that point, it's just the signal going in is just being amplified from the amplifiers. The sound difference. What's going to create the sound difference? Right.
The room correction.
That's going to be the biggest thing, right? Other than that, the signal is just supposed to go in and come out.
Yeah.
Right.
Anthony Gramani, when he and I were talking, and I was telling him about this idea, he said, "Here's what you'll notice with the higher end ones. It's really about once you start adding more channels, doing 11 or 13 ear level, doing 6 or 8 high channels, that's when the processor starts to actually get overloaded." Mm-hmm. So that's what things get, he said, a little wonky, depending on which one you have. And he also mentioned that when I have all these different processors, that it's the other thing is ease of use. How hard is it to drive the thing? Drive it meaning how hard is it to use their calibration? How hard is it just to switch inputs? How hard is it to change sound modes? Because apparently he's like, some of them you have to have like a degree in, you know, computer science to do this properly. And so I was like, damn, that's a pain in the ass.
Well, so I've spent the past few nights getting this tone winner calibrated. All done manually, so with Magic Beans, but then having to put PEQs for each channel, that takes forever. I can't trust, and I told Amir this at Summit HiFi, so I don't feel like I can trust even the level and the timing from the built-in calibration. Like I'm not even sure if that's correct. So I had to do that manually. That took, you know, another night using the spatial toolkit, playing the test tones, and just getting the timing and levels correct. All manual, right? So not only do I have to do it manually, but getting the information into that thing is also done with the remote. And it made me appreciate Denon or Marantz, where I can just use multi-QX and import the thing. Like that saves me like 2 hours. So like something ridiculous, right? And the fact that I can use Odyssey's timing and levels, like they're pretty good. That saves time. Dirac is even easier because I can really trust the timing and levels, right? Levels I still change, but the timing for sure. And the import method is way faster. And that's kind of what you're paying for. I would imagine on a Trinnov, there's even less stuff that you have to do. So what you're actually paying for, I think a lot of times, is the calibration. I keep saying it. You're paying for calibration, and if the process is easy to get your system sounding as good as possible, that's what you're paying for.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out our audio-only version of the podcast at anchor.fm/Daily HiFi, or just go to your favorite podcasting service and search for Daily HiFi.